Sahana vavatu, sahanao bhunaktu, saha viryankaravavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. If awareness is the final reality, then why not just say my truth and Ishvara's truth is not different? Yeah, you still have to deal with day-to-day challenges. And Ishvara incorporates that. It puts you in touch with realities that are true and that you're confronted with every day. So if I understand that all that is here is Ishvara, then I have to then ask, then what is Ishvara? And not only do you understand the reality of Ishvara, but also you get shown that Ishvara is the very intelligence and power in which you operate, and without which you cannot exist, right? Without which you cannot think, without which you cannot move, without which you cannot understand. As I said in the prior session, this is your only relationship, your only true mom and dad you've ever had. The mom and dad we have in this life, they have done their part. We thank them for that. But your true mom and dad is Ishvara, that has been giving you this opportunity since beginningless time, and it has given you that opportunity again through your mom and dad of the world. And this very intelligence is also what helps you remove ignorance. And that is what we want. We don't want to remain ignorant. In fact, Swami Dayananda once said, I want to live. How do I want to live? Happily, right? Living is one thing, but I want to live happily. And to live happily, that involves being in touch with reality. If I just tell you this is the reality, H2O is the reality, you say, okay, that's nice, but not the person. I still go home and I have afflictions. My mind still experiences afflictions. It still experiences challenges with family, with work, with financial concerns. So then by pointing Ishvara, you start to think, so then what are these laws which are governed by Ishvara? What are they? I want to know them because it's in my interest to align with these laws and live in harmony with Ishvara's world. Therefore, Ishvara sets the rules, not us. So the conflicts come when I'm oblivious to Ishvara, and then I start to run by my own self-created rules. And then it's not working. Well, no wonder it's not working, because I'm not aligned with the very Creator's laws, which by doing so, everything becomes so much easier in life to move forward. All three realities are here right now. For example, the wave is here right now. The wave has been manifest, and it's being manifest. That's Ishvara. When does the wave remain like this? Ever. How long does it remain like this? You can't even count, because by the time you count, it's already changed trillions of times at a level that we will never see. So the wave is here. Ishvara is here because it's that which manifests out of knowledge and power. It manifests the form. But the potential for this wave to change is right there where the wave is. Where the wave is, that's exactly where Ishvara is. That's exactly where the potential for that wave to change. In other words, Maya is also there. And all realities, the wave is. The manifestation is. The intelligence that's making that wave what it is. The potential is. In other words, form, intelligence, potential, and Sat and Chit is all there right now. That intelligence is making your body what it is right now. As it's doing so, there is a potential for that form to change in the next second. And it already has. We just didn't see it. And all throughout, there is throughout that, I am, the final reality, in whom resides Vikshepa Shakti, to project the universe, just like when you go to sleep, you, the individual, you, the projected individual, project another universe. It's funny how Maya's ways of offering us different realities and different phenomena to use to understand the reality. Or we can go the other route. We can analyze our dreams and say, I saw a gun in my dream. I wonder what that means. Oh, that means that you are going to have bad luck. You got some bad tendencies. Oh, I saw a snake. What does that mean? You know, this dream analysis. This is also fine. In fact, dream analysis is very healthy if you use it in the right way, because it uncovers your unconscious stuff. And therefore, if the person really wants to know how they are, just if you remember your dreams, the kind of person that you project is the kind of person you unconsciously see yourself as. And the kind of phenomena that happens in your dream also reflects your own behaviors, right, in the world that are just, prevented from expressing, because in the dream, you create the dream, so there's no laws there. But in this world, the empirical world, where our self-interest is to preserve the status quo, of ourselves in a society, so we kind of put that, under. So in the dream, you can see a little bit of a window into your unconscious mind. The second power of this Maya Shakti is Avarana Shakti. And this Avarana Shakti is discussed in verse 15. Antah Drg Drsya Yoho Bhedam Bahihi Cha Brahma Sargayoho Avranoti Apara Shaktihi Sa Samsarasya Karanam. So this veiling is called Avarana. And what is reality? Reality is one manifesting as many. It has the potential to manifest as many. And when it manifests the many, one of those many is you. Okay? One of those many is a frog, an ant. And not only is one of the many an ant, but the whole colony of ants, a whole colony of bees, a whole colony of plants, a whole colony of tigers and antelopes and fish. But for now, one of those manifestations is you. And this you that's manifest, because of Avarana Shakti, that which covers, so it's similar to a power which is covering the truth of this wave. The truth of this wave is the water. So now imagine the power covers that for the wave. So the wave looks around and sees nothing but other waves. Okay? So it seems like because its focus is on what it's given, that's all its reality is about. Waves, right? Other waves. So when the wave comes, in this case, when it says I, it's going to be associated to this much. Naturally, right? The sense organs and the mind. And then it's going to call this I the Drg. That becomes the Drg in the world. And everything else in the world and God becomes Drshya. See the relationship reversed? This is the experience for everyone. You understand this? This much I am. This much I am. And from here, the world is seen. Therefore, the world is seen God. Yeah, God is seen also, heard. And me here, I'm the seer. And that's where the inquiry ends. In fact, the inquiry doesn't start at all. It's just a natural assumption. And so when the jiva, a small being, finds themselves in this world, they naturally start to look for fulfillment because a naturally small being wants to make themselves happy and what's going to dictate them what makes them happy? Impressions. Mina's got all the right answers. Okay, I think we had this conversation also. Why do people do evil in the world? It's just like asking why do people pursue anything in this world? Because, right, I think this will be what is truly going to fulfill me. Because the focus is always on the I. I want to fulfill myself. And I see, well, I can just rather take money. I don't have to earn it. I can just take money. And either way, I'll be happy. I can earn money. I'll be happy because that's the primary drive behind all human behavior. I want to be happy. Or I can just do it the easy way. And we have the path of least resistance. Always find the least resistance to make myself happy. And on top of that, you have the pressures of the society. Everyone else is just sort of doing things very quickly, shortcuts. And I say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. In fact, I once said that the most unfortunate thing for a human being is when the person is relatively disciplined and they see someone that is undisciplined or being unfair, and that gives me the permission to also be unfair. That's the greatest trap for a human being. And one of the hardest things to do is when someone does something that's unfair, and me to see that and to understand where they're coming from rather than judging them. And then second step after that, not to give myself the permission to do that, because I understand the consequences will be much more negative than the gains that I will get right now. And that takes courage from the person. That's maturity. You see school kids, one pushes the other, and then all the other kids also go push. No sense of discipline. So the inner pressures compel us to find the path of least resistance and be happy. And why are we looking for happiness? Because avarana shakti. It's covered my nature as that one who is full, complete, ever available, here and now. And therefore, not knowing any better, let's go into the world, and this is what you have, a world of commercialism. In fact, if everyone realized who they are as fullness, that would be, what would happen? All stores would close down. And that would ironically, be very painful for everyone, because no jobs, nothing to eat, but now everyone's enlightened. So this is how the world is. So there's no reason to fix the world, because if you fix one thing, everyone suffers, more or less. You can't fix a world which is a product of billions of years of cause and effect relationships. Yeah. So it does involve looking at the world or someone who's having irrational behavior, and rather than saying, putting a label because that's the path of least resistance, rather understanding they are a product of causes. I may not know what those causes are, but they are a product of many, many causes that have sculpted that person to be that way. I may not know what those causes are, but the fact is the causes are there. Because after all, if everything is within the order of Ishvara, then if one wave does something, in its proximity, all the other waves are. The other waves are right there. So if this wave falls onto this one, then it's a ripple effect. This one falls onto the other, onto the other, onto the other. So it all carries forward, just like this man over there, You do something instantly because it's easy, but it comes much later. So avarana shakti is there, and it does cause trouble, but one can eliminate this ignorance. One can take this ignorance out, just like anything else. And what kind of ignorance does this avarana shakti produce? It produces three kinds of ignorance: jiva bheda, jiva jagat bheda, and jiva ishvara bheda. Now, bheda means difference. So jiva, difference; jiva jagat, jiva universe, difference; and jiva ishvara bheda, in other words, difference. For example, when it comes to jiva bheda, how is this expressed? I am different from you, you are different from me, I have my own life, you have your own life. What happens to you does not concern me. That's your problem, that's not my problem. This is typical. We all know about this. Jiva bheda, because it makes the jiva seem like it is the seer and everything else is the seen. So, hey, I'm just seeing you suffer. It's not my problem. This is avarana shakti. That's why, when we say, where's the empathy? Well, it's not just that the person doesn't have empathy. You have to think about avarana shakti. The root cause is ignorance. And when the ignorance is there, if I believe that I'm truly different from you, then it's, that contributes to feeling less empathy for another person. The moment I discover that it's in my interest for you to be healthy because your impacts affect me also, that's why it's in my interest, because it's going to come back to me, then I'm going to feel something to try to uplift you, because it is a grand order in which all participants are playing their roles, and every role, like a symphony, right? You're playing one instrument, I'm playing another instrument, and the whole symphony is synchronized. And it sounds lovely, doesn't it? You ever been to those orchestras? I love them. One of my favorite things. And then someone decides, I've been playing this thing for so long, I just want to do my own thing now, right? And then the person starts to get out of tune, and then everyone else notices because they need you to synchronize themselves. And one person decides, no, I'm just going to do it my way. And the whole symphony breaks down. And if you're sensitive enough, you will pick it up. Some don't pick it up, but those who are sensitive, they will pick it up. So this is the Ishvara's order, like a symphony. One person comes out of alignment with the order, everything, their entire circle of influence, because we all know people, feels it.
Jiva Veda.
Yeah.
The ignorance affects their relationship.
Yes.
So that relation be affected by distance?
By distance. It could. Even if you phone the person, as I said in the last session, there's an undercurrent for every person, an undercurrent. And this undercurrent transfers through your body language, through your tone, through the words you use, how kind you express yourself. In that way, yes. But in a way that suppose you don't call them, then, I don't know. I really don't know how they can be affected. Maybe some way they can be affected. But talking in terms of communication, in proximity, yes, it will have an effect. That's why we say you don't have to change others. Start with yourself. And they will pick that up. Slowly. Who said it? Someone, I think Buddha said it. Before changing yourself, before saving yourself, before saving the world, save yourself first. I love that. In fact, you save the world by saving yourself because you are part of the world. So jiva bheda is one expression of this ignorance. The second is jiva jagat bheda. So the jiva looks at the world, like the whole world of manifestation, and starts to study it. And then tries to improve it and make it better, obviously for one's own needs. But they generally consider the world as a very different thing, right? even though it's really just atoms, right? Atoms everywhere, but still, innocently, the person sees the world as, no, the tree's over there, it's not my concern, and therefore I can go in on a cutting fest of trees. Big problem. Deforestation. Let me just throw the rubbish into the ocean. It's not my problem, because the world is different from me. Let me just dig up holes, and pollute, and it's not a problem. The world is different from me. And how obvious is this today? Too obvious. Jiva jagat bheda, because of avarana shakti. Therefore, it takes away responsibility for taking care of our earth. I like these Native Americans and the Vedic culture. They have reverence for a tree. Every tree is a life force of itself. And so the more we take this divinity out, the more there's a separation between the individual and the world. It becomes a mere commercial utility to be used and exploited. Jiva jagat bheda, because of avarana shakti. Now the thing is, there's nothing much you can do about it, because this is how it's always been. And this is how it's going to continue being, right? There is stages that the world goes through. We have the, yugas. We have the, Satya Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and now Kali Yuga. Now, what is this Yuga? Yuga, obviously, it's better to bring it to yourself first. Otherwise, we go instantly outwards. You go through Satya Yuga. That's the Yuga where everything's flowing. You are in a stage of knowledge. You are, adhering by the rules, because it's enough for you to do so. You have, you have clarity. And then that's Satya Yuga. And then we go through Kali Yuga. That's the time where in our life, something's off, right? Things are messy. And there's a compulsion to restore back to Satya Yuga. So even the individual goes through different stages of their life. And not only the individual, but so does the community go through stages of their life. So the individual affects the families affect the community affects the nation affects the world. And thus the world also goes through Satya Yuga, Kali Yuga. The country goes through Satya Yuga, Kali Yuga. In fact, the time before we had all of this intermixing between cultures, whereby every culture loses its own essence, it just kind of brings everything from other cultures. You can still find a country that is in Satya Yuga, and a country next door is in Kali Yuga, for example. But the more we, have this exchange, the world shares the same Yuga, more or less, because it's very hard to not, be influenced from the outside. And the last one is Jiva Ishvara Bheda. That means there's a difference between me and Ishvara. And this is very popular today. God is my savior, and I propitiate myself to God. I'm a small being. The wave is a small being, and I want the ocean. And so this expresses in different institutions, different. Some say that you need to repent. You're a sinner, and if you go to a certain direction, then you will be forgiven by the ocean. But this is good, isn't it? Because it's one step higher, right? At least it makes a person aware that there's something bigger than just kind of the world and forms, right? So there's always a positive side to it. But either way, God is big and I am small. And I need to sport with Krishna in Vaikuntha or some special place in the future. And we have, more or less, this is the majority of religion, how it is. Small person, big God. And yet Advaita comes in and says there's one more reality. Ishvara is not the final reality. Ishvara, as I said, is a Maya Upadi manifesting the world. That manifestation, both the seen and unseen, not just the manifestation. So this means you cannot objectify Ishvara. If you try to objectify Ishvara, then you have not understood Ishvara. Because Ishvara is not what is just manifesting right now. It is what is yet to come eons, thousands, millions of years from now, and all of the things that have already been in this world. You don't have access to that. So Ishvara is beyond objectification. It's beyond objectification. But nevertheless, Ishvara is that from which this entire universe arises, by which the universe is sustained, and into which the universe resolves. And one of the objects in this universe is you. So you're one of the projections out of the many. And one of the projections says, oh, I'm special. I'm a special projection. I'm going to announce myself to be a special projection. But from the bigger picture, there's no such thing as special or inferior. It's just a projection. That's called objectivity. So again, it changes the relationship to how we see ourselves and how we see other people. There's just no space for being higher or lower. It doesn't make sense. Because that one who is making themselves higher, they can only do that in the presence of Ishvara. So they need Ishvara to do something such as making themselves higher. They need Ishvara for that. But the understanding is Ishvara is everything. Everything is Ishvara. Therefore, nothing, right, in a perfect world can really be higher or lower. Everything is just an expression of this intelligence. So the person sees many where there are only one. That's the life of a jiva. There is only one, and yet I see many. And so, for example, pots, right? Many, many, many pots. And they all look different, and they all have different functions, and they all have different utility. Different in color, different in shape, and yet they're all just clay. Vikshepa Shakti is not a problem. The projection is not a problem. The real issue is Avarana Shakti. So then what's the real pursuit? Rijya, pulling the weeds of Avarana Shakti. Because as long as Avarana Shakti is there, then what are we going to do with Vikshepa Shakti? We're going to use it to create more. But when we remove Avarana Shakti, then we solve the problem. Because the truth is, the water is already here. The ocean is already here. That's a fact. So by not knowing about the ocean and the water, you're missing something huge. Something huge is being left out. It's like living in 1/1,000,000th of the potential, and the person is happy. So it's only when we point out that there are two more realities here, then does anything change? Once the wave gets pointed out, the ocean and the water, does anything change? Does the wave suddenly expand now because it knows about two more realities? Is it now floating up, above the ocean? I'm above God now. No expansion. Nothing happens. Just understanding takes place. The person remains exactly as they are. So where's the space for turning this wave into some special fella? Even when he or she knows the reality, still they have a dependence on the ocean until death, until the last breath. So there's no expansion when liberation takes place. There's no contraction. There's no change whatsoever. Just understanding takes place. Two more realities have been introduced, and therefore the relationship changes between myself and the world, and what it means to say God. And now I can gladly go and propitiate to Shiva, to any idol, because I understand the truth of that idol is the water. Sat and Chit. Therefore, knowing about the one, worshipping the many, there's no contradiction. Worshipping the many without knowing about the one, then you are reinforcing separation unknowingly. So one can continue to worship, one can continue to pray, one can continue to have a relationship to this intelligence. It doesn't affect you in any way. And if someone says, oh, you don't know, who you are, why are you propitiating to this? Then ironically, they don't know. Right? The chair, the table, whatever it is, it's all just wood. So if I want to propitiate or devote myself to the table because that has a personal meaning to me, so be it. If you want to do the same to a chair, so be it. But the understanding is they're both wood.
A question. I think in the last years I have understood a lot of this. I have understood, let me say, so far away from being in this moksha state.
Oh, okay.
What is the difference to have really understood and just to have it understood intellectually?
Sure. Yeah, it's a very common question. So the question is, what's the difference between having understood intellectually and actual moksha? Moksha is just understanding to the point where there's no doubts whether I have understood or not. It's just, it's understood. It's like when, you're kind of in love, right? You're in love. There's no more need to know anything. It's just obvious. Awareness is the final reality. I've owned up to that reality. And after having owned up to that reality, there's a relief. You're just relieved. Wow, I'm already enjoying the final reality. This is amazing.
But I can easily imagine this.
You can easily
imagine
this. Yeah, that's why we're going to come to something called akanda akara vritti, and I'll explain that. When you imagine that, even when you're not imagining that, there's no need to imagine that. There's no need to imagine moksha. There's no need to be concerned whether I have moksha or not, because it's understood. Because even my imagination is an upadi. Even my body, the person that worries or is concerned, it's all just an upadi of maya. And there's a firm knowing, there's a firm knowledge of that. So firm that even if anxiety comes, it doesn't touch me. It's a real understanding. It's not just kind of like, oh, you're just saying this, reading this from a book. It's just relief.
I know people they are so convinced from the one or the other thing.
Yeah, I know also. Yeah. Yeah, I know also. This is why, see, the safest thing one can do is to, remain sincere, right? Sincerity is there and humility is there. Because with sincerity and humility, the person will, slowly, this knowledge will, work on the mind. This projection, this person who has concerns and worries is an upadi. Including the concerns and worries are also an upadi. The reality is that which awares the concern. That which makes the concern, it shines on the concern. Where is my identity? In that which shines. Not in the doubt, not in the concern, because the concerns and doubts are the nature of the mind. They never end. They never end. But what's always true is, I am, the unchanging, invariable presence that's here today, here tomorrow, and here yesterday, here all the time. As Krishna says, just keep your eye on me and I will do the rest for you. Just keep your eye on me. Keep the eye on the truth and I will do the rest. Don't worry about the rest. It's too much of a baggage to think about whether I got it or not. It's too much baggage. Just do the program. Just inquire in the light of the teaching and the knowledge takes place. And when the knowledge does take place, there is no doubt about it. It is clear as daylight. In fact, daylight doesn't even do justice because it's you. What's closest to you? Upa, that which is the nearest of the nearest. Are you closer to you, or am I closer to you? What is the nearest of the nearest? That is the truth. But when the knowledge does take place, understand, there's no more, oh, let me listen for more knowledge. When the knowledge takes place, that's it. There's nothing more that someone can say to make you know more who you are. You can still listen, right, to kind of, fulfill those little doubts which they come and go, right, in reference to how creation came and how did all this come. But in reference to you, there's no more doubts. And that's definitive. So moksha is not an incremental thing, little today, I'm more enlightened today, tomorrow I'm even more enlightened. It's not like that. The understanding is instant, definitive, complete. And even if there is an understanding, the person, guess what, still listens to Vedanta. Why? Because you've been listening to Vedanta for so long, it's become a habit. And you just love to be in the company of the knowledge. So it's not like because the person is listening, they don't know. There are many students who listen and they know the reality. I love to listen to Vedanta. That's all I do. I have no other life than listen to Vedanta. Because Vedanta is a form of worship, a form of devotion. It's an expression which is the closest expression of Ishvara. It's direct knowledge of Ishvara. Until when? Last breath. Until then, I've got nothing to worry about. Moksha is none of my concern, because if it was your concern, you would have had it yesterday. So why burden the mind with moksha? Just stick with the program, inquire in the light of the knowledge, and everything else will be taken care of. Because it's not just self-effort, there's also Ishvara's grace. Ishvara's grace means I need the help of Ishvara to help me remove this ignorance. So how do you know whether you got it? Only you know whether you got it. You can't tell who got it or not. Only you know whether you got it. And if you know that you got it, you have no need to tell people that you got it.
But I can see it on the behavior of the other person.
No, because behavior is upadhi. Behavior is a product of many causes that makes up that person. We have a hugging behavior, we have a quiet behavior, we have a loud behavior, we have a very social behavior. We have the person is a product of many, many causes. They grow up in a family, in a culture. So it's not moksha that determines the behavior, it's getting there that determines the behavior. In Tattva Bodha, we made this very clear. The Atikari, that one who is committed to understanding, they go through a certain life. They simplify their life. They live a humble, simpler life because they understood the value that every time I go out there, it's just more, contraction and, tension and so on. So by the time they come to the knowledge, that's how they're going to be. How they're going to be is according to what they have done until they have gotten there. So moksha, your behavior doesn't say anything about whether one knows or not. Someone said once, if we spend as much effort as we do on building a business, when we build a business, every day you're there, every detail counts. You're obsessed, testing every variable. Where's the buy now button? What text is on the buy now button? What color is the buy now button? Is it on the left side, top side? What testimonial should be on the left side, right side? Is it $29.95, $29.97, $29.99? Is it $49? What price should I put? What headline? What color of the headline? How should I dress? Dear friend, dear buyer, dear visitor. What's the call to action? How should I rewrite those words? And then you put an A-B split test behind the scenes, and then you change the headline. 50% of the traffic goes to headline 1, 50% of the traffic goes to headline 2, and then you go back into your stats and you see the people with headline 1 purchased more than people with headline 2, and then you take headline 2 away, and then you put headline 1, you compare it to another headline that's even better, you go to ChatGPT and you put that 2. Constant, you're obsessed. I know this because I was in business for a long time. If people took as much effort to build a business as to inquire, it would be a much quicker process, much easier and much quicker. The point is it's possible because everyone has that dedication, everyone has that patience, everyone has that strength. It's only a matter of seeing the value for moksha. And then you will have as much commitment and energy as you have in building a business. So moksha is not an issue. It's am I committed? Do I understand what the stakes are? Having already lived many lifetimes, hey, I've given this lifetime, I've been given this lifetime, now let's use it. There's no question of next life. People often say, what about next life? This is already imagination. In fact, it's not for me to say next life or not, but if one were to be serious, this is where it counts, because this is all we have, this life. Not next life, it's this life. And still having enough humility not to say, no, it's going to be this life, because you don't make the shots. You don't call the shots. So even if you're definitive, this life alone, in the background there's humility enough that if it's not this life, thank you, Ishvara, I still trust you to take care of me next life. I will gladly come back, and I know that all of the fruits of my labor in this life will be nicely passed on, and it's going to be an even better journey with even better parents and life and privileges next life. I can hardly wait. So it's not a concern because you have trust in this intelligence. What difference will it make if I remove avarana and samsara? So what is samsara? Life of becoming. So becoming something that I think will give me some satisfaction. And the person comes to a certain stage in their life and they say, okay, but I've become, I was this, I was that, and it was just all business as usual, right? It was fun, but then again, how much more can I do of this? And then the person comes to a certain understanding that even if I'm given a pleasant upadi and a pleasant body, a pleasant mind, right? Even if I come back with a pleasant body, a pleasant mind, then still there's its limitation all the way from beginning to end. So even if the person decides to, just do charity work and donation work and all of this lovely work right out there in the world, and that it's going to give you a good body, still this, in contrast to limitlessness, it's minuscule. Therefore, the person understands it's very fatiguing to keep on becoming something, if you haven't noticed. It's very fatiguing to become this, to become that, and then to change the roles, and then to, take care of the people who are associated to your roles. It's very fatiguing to do that all the time. So eventually, you just want to break. You want to simplify your life. Nowadays, we have so many books written on, simplifying, doing what? Doing less is more. Right? You heard this, doing less is more. This is the idea. Because the more I have in my life, the more I'm caught up in those things that are around me. The less the essentials that I have, I'm not saying I'll get rid of stuff, left and right, and then making some simpler changes, setting some boundaries so that people don't constantly, ask for you, hey, and you're constantly distracted. So the person says, hey, this is my time between 4 and 5 or 5 and 6, don't disturb me. This is my time between me and the truth. So there are some boundaries that are set up. Why? Because you value your time with the Lord more than anything else. And I get it. There are people with families and they're very busy. But if there's one thing that is also very important, it is your own well-being. And for that much, you're able to put a boundary and focus on that boundary for the time being, within that boundary. So we've covered the 2 powers of Maya. And now verse 16, I'm just going to read. So now that the veiling power has hidden the nature of who I am, what happens now? There's an individual that is born. And how is the individual born? Verse 16, it says the subtle body, right? So the mind, the mind, due to the presence of consciousness pervading that mind, it shines and becomes what we call I am, right? It becomes like there's this new I am that is born. So there's this mechanism called the subtle body, and it suddenly grows in consciousness, it appears in consciousness, and from that standpoint, that subtle body says, I am. And why is it saying I am? Because it is conscious of itself. What is it conscious of? Of all of the things inside that subtle body. So that's what happened here for all of us. There was a subtle body that grew in this all-pervading consciousness, and when it got kind of 5 or 6 years of age, it was able to, after cookie, all of that stuff, it was able to say, I am. And on that I am, what was superimposed? All of the stuff that is inside the subtle body. All of the stuff you've been told by your parents and all of the past impressions from past lives. And therefore, the individual assumes this is who I am. I am over here, you're over there, and this is the reality. And everyone has this same experience. And therefore, this is a product of Avarana Shakti. And so the Vedanta comes in and says, even though you're experiencing yourself as a limited being, it is only incidental. It's never going to be any different as long as you're alive. Okay? So it's not like a wise person has broken out of this confinement and is like everywhere now. The wise person also experiences themselves as a limited, confined human being. But they know despite the confinement, I can't do anything about it because there is a subtle body. I just have to wait for the subtle body and the physical body to die. Then I enjoy my limitlessness as myself. As long as there's Maya Upadhi, which is producing this body, there will be a sense of confinement. Therefore, there's no need to try to relieve oneself or feel everywhere or feel blissful or feel big. That's not going to be possible because Maya is confining this space. As long as this form is there, the space will be confined. The jiva feels confinement, the ignorant person, the wise person feels confinement. The only difference is the wise person understands despite the confinement, there is actually no real confinement. I understand cognitively I am free. But is there a feeling of freedom when you're hungry? No, I want food. Okay? So we're keeping things in perspective. The wise person understands the body is hungry. It's made to be hungry. It's made to experience the pangs of limitations, the pangs of hunger, the pangs of sickness, the pangs of illness, the pangs of old age. It's made to do that. The mind is designed to provide emotions that are sometimes not so pleasing, sometimes very pleasing. That is all the function of the mind. And all of these things are superimposed onto I am, I am, I am, I am. And when the body dies of a wise person, I am, I am, I am, I am, minus the mind, minus the body. So upon death, the exact I am that is here now, upon death, I still am. The exact same person that you know yourself, the same being that you know yourself to be now, is the exact same being that continues when the body is dropped for the wise person. Minus the limitation of the body, minus the limitation of my life, of Andrei's life. So it's not like, when the wise person dies, suddenly, wow, I'm in a new reality and, it's like all, No, the exact same I am that is here now continues. Because we said consciousness is unborn. So there's no question of it suddenly being born into a different state. So first thing, we need to drop this notion that I'm supposed to feel, like everywhere. There is a body upadhi, there is a mind upadhi, and it is as though limiting my existence. Why do I say as though? Because cognitively I understand, even though it seems like I'm limited, actually, I am not limited. That's why it's an understanding and not an experience. That's called removal of Avarana Shakti. Removing this Shakti, which makes me think, oh, I feel limited, that's because that's who I am, a limited being. You remove that Avarana Shakti, oh, I feel limited, so what? It's only very temporary, only very incidental. Maya is there. It's projecting this body, it's projecting these thoughts. Can't even remember what happened yesterday because the body is made to do what it does. Oh no, I'm a wise person, I should remember everything. You see, you're mixing up realities. There's a reality of the empirical world, which is the body, the mind, which does have limitations. And there is the reality out of which everything arises and which lights up everything. And what is lighting up your life? That which is lighting up your life. You don't even have to define it. We call that awareness. Got it. See, this is a very common question. I can't imagine myself without the five senses. This is very typical because since beginningless time, we've always been with the five senses. And we're so used to sounds, taste, touch, smell, right? All of this tactile feedback, they just can't imagine you being without all of that. So it's like, oh, so when I die, you know what? There's no sounds, there's no images, there's nothing there, right? This is a typical kind of imagination that we project. When I say Ananda, it is much more than just sounds, just images, just hearings and what you taste and smell. Ananda means fullness. In that place of fullness, there's no chance to say, oh, I want to go back to earth. Oh, I'm missing something out. Oh, I'm incomplete. Fullness. The reason why I'm not going to define fullness, because the moment I define it, is it fullness? No, I've just limited it to my context of description. Yeah, see, the brain wants to imagine what's it like without the five senses. In other words, it wants me to turn that which is without boundaries into a boundary. That which is formless with a form. Can't do that. It's beyond the descriptions of the mind. It's beyond understanding of this limited mind. I am. In me, the entire universe resides. My Maya also resides in me. So you're not missing anything out. We often say, upon death, you're not only Brahman, you're also Ishvara. Not only limitlessness, I'm also all knowledge, all power. Maybe that will help a little bit. So it's not like you're just a little weakling, a little existence of nothingness. All knowledge, all power also. In which the entire universe resides and from which the entire universe is projected. One being who is true right now, this moment, one being, in whom all of these beings, including this one, are having this conversation. And why are they having this conversation? Because from one being, there's a power to project this. And who is that being? I am. Sat and Chit. It's kind of hard, like, wow, one being, I don't relate. But look at it step by step. One being, just like when you dream, your own power projects the universe, projects Sokyung, projects Jens, projects Mina. And they're all sitting inside a class, looking at another individual who's also projected by you, and they're having a conversation about you, and they see differences, and they see forms, and they are having these conversations about what is what. And they're having emotions and experiences, and the whole thing is you. In the dream, where are you not? Where in the dream are you not? The whole thing, the world that you produce, the dream that you produce is just you. The characters that are produced is you. The students that are produced is you. The teacher that is produced is you. The wars that are produced is also because of your own existence, supplying it consciousness. So this intelligence in the dream puts things together in such a way that there is an order to that. It puts a mountain, it puts rivers, it puts trees, it puts soil, it puts worms, it puts fish, it puts India, it puts earth, it puts everything. And then it populates it with jivas. These jivas here, populates it with jivas. And these jivas are trying to figure all this out. And then the wise jiva comes over with the scriptures and says, this whole thing is just you. You're manifesting all of this. And your power is so amazing that it makes it seem like you're totally different. And even if it seems like you're totally different, it's only as though. It's only as though. It's not actual. Understanding this much, I am free. That's all the scriptures want you to understand. Understanding this much, I am free. Not intellectually, oh, I've heard this sometime, but just an understanding. And I'm not going to define to you what an understanding is. This is up to the individual to discover this for themselves. A teacher can only go so far. But when knowledge takes place, you know it. And that's beyond anyone's. You don't need to say, hey, can you just confirm to me whether I got it? And Avarana Shakti is simply removing this notion that I have to experience this reality. Because then it becomes a drishya. That's the only thing that we're doing, just removing this notion that I have to experience it. You're already experiencing this reality. How? I am. Self-revealing I. You will never not experience in this reality. But because there were so many notions telling what I'm supposed to experience, I was always comparing. No, it's got to be something else. No, it's got to be something else. And then the scriptures come and say, no, you've always had it because it's the only reality. And if it's the only reality, then by definition, it should be recognizable right now. Then the next question is how? As self-revealing I. Do you have any doubts that you are? Do you have any doubts about that you exist? I am. I is. I exist. And on top of the existence, there is an upadi called Andre. That's okay. It's not me, it's just an upadi. I can live with that. And when is the upadi perfect? Never. Never. There's so many things I wish I was, I want to memorize the whole Gita by heart. I want to know all the Upanishads by heart. I want to know much more Sanskrit. The desires never end. No, really, this is my desire. I love knowledge, but it's not going to happen. I like what Dayananda once said. You're going to die with so many books unread. And that really hit me hard. So then the question begs is, well, then what is absolutely essential? That's very clear. What is my nature? What is my connection to all of this? It's not supposed to be hard. Why would Ishvara make it so hard? What kind of a God is that? Hey, you're supposed to learn physics, supposed to learn science, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to... Only then you will get it. And if it's not easy, then the mind is still coming in and still dumping its own notions that it's supposed to be different. And this, nobody can really... You just have to, discern what do I really need that my mind is turning this into an intellectual exercise. For me, it's always prayers. I need God's prayers. God, please release me from this need that to turn everything into one intellectual pursuit. Because I understand the value of understanding this deeper than just intellectual pursuit. It started out as an intellectual pursuit, believe me. But very quickly, the moment I found Nima, she destroyed that entire thing. That's Nima's value. Everything before, all of the other, with all the respect, teachers, they were all male. A lot of, head stuff. The moment a woman showed up in my life, she brought heart. That's why I love Nima. And that's exactly what was needed. That took a way different approach than I was exposed to, which was you're Brahman, you're Brahman, you're Brahman, you're awareness. And then Nima comes. All that is here is Ishvara. And you have no existence apart from Ishvara. It's a grand scheme of things which facilitates all of these relationships from which you were never separate from, in whom you always resided, in which you are residing in right now, who is taking care of all of your needs and always has been taking care of your needs, who facilitates these connections and brings people together and gives you the grace which you need to stand the knowledge. And doing so, you come to the right teaching, you come to the teacher, and you understand that it's not intellectual pursuit, it is very much a holistic vision, a holistic vision. It doesn't feel like it's here or here, it's everywhere. That's how it feels. That's called, right, unity. There was a picture that I had of these pictograms where the head and the heart are shaking hands. It's like that. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.